Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Jen Berryhill, and I'm here with you on the Moods of Ascension podcast. Very excited once again to be here on this amazing roundtable for a discussion of this upcoming moon cycle energy of the bare moon. And with me, I have Zoe Anna Bell and Melanie Kay, who are both in Australia, and Lelie Carroll, who is also here in Colorado, same as me. And we've just had so much fun doing these roundtables together, um, for, just bringing in some information and tools and insight for anyone really to use as part of their ascension journey during these different cycles of the moon. And so we are going to touch into some of the topics that come in with this upcoming cycle. And I'm going to first start off by just having everyone introduce themselves, say hello, and then we can all land in the space together. So I will invite Lelie to start us off.
Hi, my name is Lelie, and I've got Earth Star Healing Center up in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm very thankful to be part of this group. It's been an amazing month already, and there's a lot to share, so thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here again. And Zoe, you want to go next?
So I'm Zoe I'm in Sydney, Australia, and healer following my purpose and soul mission, working with the body, the mind. And yeah, it's beautiful to be here in this space with all of you again.
Awesome. Welcome, and thanks again for coming back with us. And Melanie, how are you?
Good. I'm clearing a throat thing this week, so my voice is a little raspy and shaky, but no, I'm doing great. I feel great. I'm up in Darwin in Australia. And yeah, I'm working really diligently the whole pandemic. I've been working on building this web platform, Star Body Earth, that's bringing together teachings on all of our relations, my own services as a somatic psychotherapist, my past life, and now energy worker, so astrologer. So I'm bringing in some services and also some tours, some upcoming tours. So I've been working on that, and I'll be releasing that site this week. So I'm really stoked about that. But yeah, just loving living in the land of Oz at the moment, and enjoying the time here.
Excellent. I know you're all just rocking and rolling, working and doing all your beautiful magic. And it's just always such an honor to be in the space with you all. I'm kind of anchoring back in and getting grounded again after a lot of traveling. I had a lot of fun this summer, got to have a vacation and be in East Steady at James Gilliland's ranch up in Washington. Lelie joined me there and just did this amazing presentation. As you know, she's really holding such an amazing role and space right now as the historian for the star knowledge teachings that were brought through, predominantly through Chief Golden Light Eagle, who, I spent a lot of time working with as well. He and I planned many conferences together, star knowledge conferences, and we did a lot of ceremony together. He lived with me for almost a year, so we were doing sweats, at least once a week, so there was so much that was brought through. And so, like, part of this the purpose and intent of this podcast with me is to just continue to bring a voice, and just to keep the energy alive, to keep the legacy of the teachings alive. And it's just been so fun and very healing, and also in a way bittersweet as well. But I just returned from Sundance ceremony. I went to a new Sundance this year, and it was in Nebraska at the Santee Reservation with Jim White. And he's just a beautiful heart. He just cares so much about helping people on their spiritual path. His Sundance is about spiritual intelligence. And he has a beautiful vision that we got to dance with. I supported this year and just held space and observed and learned. And, you know, I wanted to do that for myself because I take those teachings very seriously. I just had a fly land on my nose. Wow, the clowns are here. And okay, so I totally lost my train of thought. But, you know, just taking these teachings to heart with the turtle, you know, Unchikia, the turtle, she says to know your step before you take it. And so, you know, I just wanted to go and observe and see how things are done on the land here in the Santee Reservation. And it was very beautiful, very, very compassionate. And I learned a lot. And at the same time, it was very different from prior, you know, my entire experience sun dancing. And so, yeah, I'm still integrating and, you know, processing things. And, you know, it was really bittersweet, honestly. It actually brought up more missing chief for me, which I'm actually getting an opportunity to fully grieve now. And I received a lot of healing, and it was really great to just be in the energy again and just know we're all moving forward with this new beginning. Wherever we all are, it's all beautiful, and we're all these circles and circles carrying on the work. And it's just such important work that we need to do. So I was really thankful for that opportunity. And then coming home and now getting to be grounded again. And let's kick off this whole podcast for Moons of Ascension with this particular cycle that's coming through right now. So we danced in the energy of the corn moon, and it was super cool because the name of the tree this year was Zitkana Numwi, or Zitkana Nupawi, which was two-bird woman. And we danced with this tree, two-bird woman, during the corn moon. It was the full moon of the corn moon. And then the 1313 influences for that cycle are Thoth and the owl. So we were smack dab in, you know, in the middle of the two birds for that moon. And, you know, here comes the name for this tree. And the whole time we're, you know, the sun dance was going on, we had the robins coming in and landing in the arbor. And then the swallows were just nonstop flying around. And so we have these two different energy birds. You know, for me, like the swallow feels very star being, very star lineage. And the robin being like that new birth, and then the family, and, you know, just really gentle love and vibrancy. So I can't wait to see what unfolds from there as we now are stepping into the 10th dimensional moon influence of the Earth star calendar. And it is going to be the bear moon this month. And the stargate that opens up for this month is the stargate of introspection. And the test is very simply surrender. And so it's surrendering yourself at spirit's threshold and entering in because heaven's togetherness awaits. And the star DNA energy that's coming through right now is the White Buffalo Star Nation. So we're going to be feeling the influences from the Pleiades, from Orion, from Sirius A, Sirius B. You may also be noticing some attention being drawn to your neck, because the DNA activation point for this cycle is the atlas and the axis, which are the two topmost vertebrae, literally holding up your skull. And yeah, and so with the bear, you know, it's the spiritual freedom of man. And we're going to talk a little bit about that symbol as well. But it has to do with opening gates that have been closed. And, you know, the gates that we're talking about are like literally the gates of your mind, which are housed inside your soul. So we're starting to see some connections here with how things are moving and what's being worked on, and where it's coming in from. And so with this stargate of introspection, we're really going to be looking at it more like an inspection. So if we look at like an inspection, an externalized version of an inspection might look like, you know, when you're in the military or boarding school, you know, they have these things called, excuse me, inspections. And, you know, it's a time when you got to kind of like use your discipline and get things cleaned up and tidied up and looking shiny and pretty, because you know something's coming to take a look at it. And so instead, we're going to be moving inside to the inspection of the inner realms. So introspection and the inspection, and looking at ourselves on these levels of physicality, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And, you know, are we physically fit? Are we physically healthy? Are we mentally clear? Are we emotionally balanced? Are we spiritually connected? And, you know, what area do we really need to grow in? This month is the perfect time to really look and see, where do I need to grow so that I can be the brightest, shiniest version of myself for this introspection. And I don't know about you all, but I'm already starting to recognize areas that are calling my attention on a physical level for me personally, feeling some emotional stuff as well, feeling pretty mentally clear, feeling very, very spiritually connected right now. But my work this month for me is going to be on my physicality. So with that, I'm going to just kind of bounce in and tune in with you all and see how that all lands, and kind of what might be coming up for you as it ties into this particular cycle astrologically, what you're seeing in the collective, what you're personally experiencing, because I know there's just a lot of fun stuff going on in all of our worlds, in all those realities. And so I think I want to ask Lelie first to please start us off. And if you would also share a little bit about the symbol that we work with this moon cycle as well, with spiritual freedom of man. And I'll let you take it away.
Well, I think it's very interesting because last night, about an hour before sunset, I had a bear come visit, and it was literally walking through the national forest in an aspen grove. And I look out the window in different directions when I can, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was this golden brown bear. I mean, it almost looked like a grizzly, but it was a black bear. And immediately I thought of, would you invite a bear to dinner? And I was like, no. And I had my door open and the windows were open and I had music playing, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, there's a bear. And it looked up. It was kind of doing its own thing, you know, and it looked up and saw my truck and stopped, because human can be danger. And then I'm running around the house trying to get my phone, you know, to take a picture, and my phone wouldn't turn on. And then I look out and the bear's gone. And so I thought, okay, well, that's it. And then the bear came back and walked along the fence line. So it stayed in the forest. It was very respectful of space. But I just thought that was so interesting because I knew the moon of the bear was coming up. And this time of year, bears are very active because they're getting ready, you know, for hibernation and for the fall. And so it just was magical to me. And I've been having so many visions of potential for this place in the woods for us to come for ceremony. And just, you know, the stars. I'm looking at your background, Melanie, and that's what it looked like. The stars were so clear that I felt like I was looking at pictures of constellations last night. I mean, it was, and I didn't have a constellation map to look at, but it was like that. I mean, it's, when we get out in nature, it is so clear, it is so tangible, it is so there, and we just have to turn off our minds. You know, out where I am, there's no electricity, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no light from cities. The only noise you hear are airplanes overhead. There's, you know, and animals. There's nothing out there. And so it's that purity of the mind. And so I just was really thinking about the bear moon, and when we used to do sweats and we used to have a feast after sweat, and we would be bears and we would eat without our hands and just be wild and crazy. And I remember laughing, and I said I was a panda bear so I could use my hands, because I didn't want to put my face in, I don't remember what it was, but and so I got a kind of reprimand from Eagle about that. But panda bears eat with their hands, so I called in the panda bear energy for that. So I don't know, I just think everything's really magical. I think we really have an opportunity to connect on levels that we haven't connected before. So I'm reading Spiritual Freedom of Man, which is from the original. And the right to choose his path in life, the right to choose between red road and the black road, the right to choose a walk that is steady road to higher spiritual growth, or the right to choose the opposite, which would result in moral degradation for the human spirit. There's always a choice and a chance to change by the representation of the adjacent road. So I think we all are looking at our roads ahead and what is our path. And I really feel like we're all anchoring in the near future and the future. And some of us, for us in Colorado, we've got a weather timeline, especially in the woods, because at a certain point, there's no more driving in. It's going to be hiking in, which I love. But so I'm looking at, this timeline of what to do now. And this really, other than spring, fall is my favorite time of year, with the change of the seasons and the cooler temperatures. And so I'm really looking forward to this time. Definitely.
Yeah. And we've shared a little bit on other podcasts about the energies of free will, and the symbol for free will is like the yin symbol, and this month being the kind of the yang symbol for spiritual freedom of man. And so I was going to have Zoe, you could hold up your book and turn it, and I'll also hold up the other version. Can you turn it, just like flip your book? Yeah, there we go. Perfect. That way.
That way, yeah.
So that's the symbol of spiritual, it's freedom of man, and also this symbol here. So free will and freedom of man. So I wanted to share those as well, just to kind of bring the energy of the symbol with the star knowledge, just in honor of how, we work with the moon cycles, and we're activating these symbols and working with that influence, calling in these guardians, this month being the bear, walking bear, as well as the cloud nations and Krishna. So I won't say any more about that just yet. So let's bounce over to you, Melanie, and just, if you would, just share what's coming in for you right now around this symbol and this month influence.
Well, just as you were sharing it, and what we've processed before about the free will, and the lines going vertical, where we are actually accessing our channel, and what's around us in that way. When you tilted it this way, I was like, oh yeah. And what you spoke about, Lelie, it's like the horizontal. It's like, where's the path? What's the path out? Where are we choosing? Which of these three paths are we choosing? And that really just, it connects so much right now with the choices we're being presented with, and with, I think, the intensity and the magnitude of our choice points in this now. It's becoming very clear when we are in alignment, and very distorted when we choose that other way. And I think that contrast is really helping people that want to honor that alignment, and honor that Dharma, and honor that kind of original purpose and plan. And those that don't, and the ones that don't, are getting, the loops are getting the feedback loops are getting so quick. So I don't know. I think that there's just an intensity right now that we can't ignore around, and to have this be kind of a gateway to open the doors and closed. If people aren't waking up yet, man, they're going to get a shocker this month, I tell you, because one of the gates, when you said like open the gates that have been closed, I mean, I was just aware that in a lot of my spiritual community, this this week, this opening the 23rd and going into the 29th is like almost like a surprise Stargate portal opening. You know, there's something really new. People didn't see it coming until, you know, a month ago or something. And I'm aware of it. The energies have been so strong. For me, this last week personally, I feel like I've been having dream after dream after dream about snake medicine, the poison that is the cure of the venom of snake medicine in my dreams. All the things that and what is, you know, what is that for me? I'm going to be going to India and deep diving into my Kundalini practices. And like, that's the snake for me. That's the energy pathways in the body. And that's like, you know, bringing life force into your whole beingness. So I've been getting these dreams and this, you know, just 2 days ago, there was a Darwin Festival closing and they had this performance up in the sky. They partnered with the indigenous community here in Larikia and the super high-tech company and got this whole drone performance, this lit up drone performance in the sky, telling the story of this land here. And so they had this rainbow serpent with drones going through the sky, and it turned into a Stargate, and it did this whole thing where there were 3 circles inner weaving with each other. And then they talked about the Old Man Rock and the Casuarina Beach. And I was so blown. My mind was just blown. It was like the indigenous elder the Aboriginal elder who was telling the story, took us into a trance, the slow movements of these lit up drones and the undulating of the rainbow serpent. And I was like, this is it. We're like merging. We're merging like the tech and the old stories, and they're coming together. And the amount of people that were there listening to this and getting this download of this this land and this serpent, the rainbow serpent story. I mean, I was like, this is everything. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We're bridging, you know, we're bridging these 2 worlds. So it does feel like a big portal. And I'll just say one more thing about that. I couldn't really like fathom the response to the collective around Lionsgate this year. It kind of blew my mind, like how I just felt like normal friends of mine were like talking about it. Like just people that aren't in the spiritual community were just like, what's this Lionsgate? There's like lots of curiosity. And of course, I might have talked about this in the past. I track sidereal time. So I track the time where the stars are in the actual sky, not Western astrology tracks them from like 2,500 years ago. So most people were like stacking up that Lionsgate energy portal about probably 2 weeks ago. And we actually just crossed over that threshold on the 17th, 18th, 19th into the actual Lionsgate. Now we're sitting at the portal where the lion's heart, you know, because the lion's gate is really where the paws are on the lion. And now we're coming into regal, and regal, where the sun is sitting, and regal is where like, woof, we're getting that like just lion's heart, that like the energy of the pride of the, you know, the majesty of, that's why we use the word regal, you know, it's because the star regal like brings us this energy of ownership and sovereignty and like owning your space, owning yourself, and choosing, you know, from that place. So that's what I'm tuned into, just all that, you know, just that little bit.
That is, I'm just gonna say, super badass. I love all of that information because I really feel that too, and I want to hear from Zoe too. Before there's like all these like yummy morsels I want to munch on more, but let's hear from Zoe.
So when you were actually sharing about what's coming up now and the different points with the access point and the surrender, I'm then realizing 9-10 days ago when I held space for the healing workshop, that's what I was doing. That's exactly where I was working on the access point. So then each soul there could come into that alignment of choice to really get clear integrity with, are they actually doing the work in their body and their mind? Are they bringing that into alignment with their spirit? Are they really being in choice? Are they really being in integrity moment to moment? and giving them those, assisting them with them upgrading their light codes of consciousness so they can come into that greater alignment with their path. So it's beautiful the way that everything all aligns, that you are put in these divine places. And then we get to show up and we get to share our medicine. And then that's the like pre-warming up to what's coming through. Even to what Mel's saying, I mean, having 10 people in a room where you're weaving and you're like a conductor and they're all Kundalini activating and you're simply just doing it with this, and we're all connected, this beautiful interconnectedness. So that still feels very wild, and it feels really beautiful and very aligned with everything that's happening right now. I do feel, and I've written this a few times, I've said to people, you need to see the loops. If you don't see the loops, you will get carried, you will get dragged, kicking and screaming, you will get dragged. And just observing that many are still staying in those loops, and they will continue staying in those loops as they don't want to let go of what they think they know or what they've learned. And it's this real opportunity for really clearing the slate. And, you know, that takes the courage, the courage to really express what something is coming up for you. So then you can honor your space and also be aligned with your path. So yeah, gates are all open, and it's all choice now with where people choose or what they choose to pivot, which is divine for what they need to continue to go into to assist them with their integrity and their diligence. So yeah, there's no hiding. And you know, there is this real need right now, and the word that keeps coming through is groundedness. And it's very easy to get lost in the spiritual realm, and yet unless we're grounded, then that energy cannot fully come into that expression. So groundedness and being earth, nature, simplicity, unplugging from this is so key right now, because there's so many distractions, and it's going to increase. And time on the thing with time actually feels timelessness more and more. Yes, time is speeding up, and there is this bend. There's an opportunity when you come into integrity and pure source alignment of your path, time starts to bend, and you get this space to really create a lot in a very small, right, expansive space. I'm shaking as I say that.
I know, I'm like buzzing. Yeah, because there's so much that we're all just bringing into the space, and it's activating it even more. You know, I woke up Saturday morning, today's Monday, so a couple days ago. Like, what day is it? Oh, okay, perfect. I don't even know. So I'm very timeless right now. But I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the new moon of the bear moon. You know, like I woke up and it was already like on. And I was diving into just what are we going to be doing this month, because I was really excited. And then I looked at the actual, you know, ridiculous 3D calendar and realized, oh, wait a second, it's still just the third quarter of the corn moon, you know, and it was this energy of on or awe, and which is the owl nation, and the owl nation working with Andromeda. And, you know, it's all this like all this new awareness around the medicine that I carry. And, you know, when Eagle passed me the bucket when I did my humblecha and received my spirit name, Blue Owl Woman, he told me, he's like, you're working with many faces and lightning clown. And I must have just done this at that time, because I totally forgot about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really am like a super clown. And but it was just so cool reading more about the owl energy and how it is in between space, and how, you know, we have the ability to be the light and the dark. And it's a time to really acknowledge our soul beyond all veils of time, beyond all doubt, darkness, you know, like it's just, and being in the playground of creation. And so we lit ourselves up in sweat on Saturday night playing with that energy. And wow, it was, we had the Cloud Nation come, we had lightning, and you know, everything was all twisted up and backwards, and it was just like so perfect. And so I was really happy I made that, you know, that realization that I was still really in that energy, and how perfect that time was suddenly sped up, and it was not the day that I thought it was. You know, everything just is super backwards. But long story short, here we are. I wanted to just talk a little bit more about the actual bear energy that is coming in now, because the owl really did prepare us for that. The owl bringing up, you know, things for us to look at. What do we need to see in ourselves that can get more healing now that we're moving into this time of introspection, and having the bear there to help us open these gates that have been closed. And you know, so we have many spiritual gifts, you know, in our inner worlds, as well as the really far away realms. And these gifts are spiritual sight, prayer, healing, and our relationship to all that is. And the test really is to sacred responsibility. You know, our gifts open when we're ready to love all of our relations and all that is. And Lelie talked about this in her share earlier. You know, would you set a dinner plate for your relation, the bear? Could you hold love in the face of fear? And so this is that time, you know, the bear really wants us to clean up our emotions. This is a time for purification. And, you know, our hearts must be clean in order for our gifts to fully activate. And, you know, they're all there. We just need to clean a few things up, and then boom, we're connected more strongly to all of our sacred gifts. And so the bear says, you know, to embrace your challenges, open the door that scares you the most, and your heart will open. And he says, do this now. Open those 4 doorways of the mind, and you will see that you are not alone. Open the door at the top of your head and reconnect to Creator and the higher realms. Open the door that is within yourself and find yourself. Find the love of you. This is self-love. Find your freedom and set yourself free. So with that, and you know, just in this amazing portal that opened up, that I feel like, you know, it's such an opportunity as a new choice point, a new playground of creation, a new pathway. Where do y'all want to go with this conversation? Like, what do you see yourselves doing in this next moon cycle? Who wants to go first?
Well, I just thought it was really interesting because I'm in the woods. I haven't been in the woods for a long time, and nobody's been there. So I'm being respectful of any animals that have moved in. You know, there are bears, there are mountain lions, there are all kinds of animals, moose. And I had this kind of fear or apprehension just going out and wandering around in the woods because I didn't know what was out there. And so what was really cool last night was watching this bear approach. And as I feel like it was a female, as she saw my truck, she started to go back into the woods. Because, you know, usually there are dogs or animals that'll alert if there's a bear. Well, there was no noise. And then she came back, but she stayed respectful of the fence line and stayed in the forest. And so now I feel like I don't have that apprehension anymore because I know where she's at. I know that there's open communication with the animals around me, and we're all respectful of each other's space. And I feel like that's what we all need to do is be in a place of acceptance, be in a place of telepathy and communication, and just let your heart lead. Because when your heart leads, then, you know, animals and people will pick up that vibe. And so I thought it was a beautiful lesson. And then what was interesting this morning, I started moving my stuff back into my truck and I found an owl feather. And I hear them at night. I hear them talking to each other, but I didn't see any owls. But there was a feather right where I had been, 2 days before, just planted right in my path. And so I just feel like it's magic out there. It's the veils are thin and it's whatever we want to create. And so that's how I look at life now, is what do we want to create? How do we want to create it? How do we want to interact with what's around us? It's amazing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and that purity of heart and the sacred gifts. You talked about telepathy, but there's clairvoyance and clairaudience, and just that deeper intuition. And it's like when we are doing the work to clear ourselves of those stuck or baseline, lower frequency emotions, it does create a block. And when we're able to be more neutral and more open and more in love with all creation, I really feel like once we reach that tipping point, the star nations are really going to start like actually having more contact with us as well. I just wanted to add that little piece. Melanie, do you want to share more too?
Yeah, you guys are really bringing me into a beautiful space, just reflecting on the bear. Bear is really the first totem animal that I feel like I bonded with and had a psychic experience with. And, before I was even connected to the star knowledge or a lot of some of the teachings I engaged in, I had asked for my spiritual name kind of privately. I made an altar for that. And what came through was this 3 little bears, and they were named Iti, Ishe, and Ute. And I knew that it was very clear in my dream. It was 3 letter words. And I took that in and started to do my sacred research around it. And the Ute was spelled like UTE, like the Ute Indians. So I started to look at that, and I was called to go do kind of my first real call to the land, to do work with the land and connect into the land, was at Dinosaur National Monument in reservation territory. And so I went down there and I did this whole journey, and just driving, not knowing where I was going, just totally just letting spirit lead me. And I was following this ridge line. I was about to give up and just, release myself and surrender to my own stupidity of just doing this random drive through no man's land. And I pull over at this little pull off, and it just said, this is the Ute migration route. And I had intuitively traveled the whole Ute migration route. And that night I did a ceremony. It was getting to be wintertime, so it was like at the end of fall, or maybe it was just up in the mountains, so it was just cold. And anyways, I made a fire and I had my crystal altar and I had everything set up, and I had no idea what was just going to happen. I was just praying, and I had a bear come into the grove, and I was paralyzed, absolutely paralyzed. I couldn't even turn around and look. I just knew that it was back there. But in my mind's eye, walked up and turned into a spirit chief and gave me a telepathic transmission, and then came back down. And I just stayed and stayed and stayed. And that was like my first real, have never told this story, but privately. So it's kind of a big deal. I'm telling it now, but it was really like my first full on experience with like a ascended being, and that what you're sharing, Lelie, about and Jen, about this, the love and welcoming these things that you fear, and holding this connection to all our relations, and letting yourself be open to your psychic sight. It's all just like bringing something back home. And actually, as I'm in this creation process with my offering and my Dharma and what I have to be of service in the world, like it's all just like going wah, 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 because it just so, as what you're just sharing about bear medicine, that's like here, let me just stop my video. I almost, can you see an image when I stop my video? That's a bear. That's an ancient bear holding holding a little one, a little bear. I was going to name my business Wild Bear Mother. And actually, you know, there's another sister of ours in the Star Knowledge community in San Francisco who kind of, you know, came out with that name. And I was like, okay, I'll release it. It's not my business name, but it definitely is like my core, my root. So I love everything that you're sharing, and it's bringing something really into grounding for me. So thank you.
Awesome. Beautiful. How about you, Zoe?
I'm like, what are we going into? I've lost my train of thought.
I
All the sharing, what was that?
guess whatever you're feeling about what might be on deck for you with this moon cycle with the bear.
Yeah, I've been really diligent, diligency and disciplined with that introspective of bringing things into a space that they're going to be seen in full view, that really being in integrity. I'm in creation mode and bringing things into completion. So it's really, yeah, that deeper introspection of moment to moment pausing. And how can I explain it? I don't even know if I have any words for it. I wasn't sure if you were asking where are we going, where are we feeling into our path, or what's coming through. Things are moving very quick. And in that, I'm also very like diligent in my tasks of what I need to get done, of that mind, body, spirit, which for me has been diligence for over a decade. So it's exciting to see others now recognizing that and actually opening up and following my Dharma as part of that is giving others that structure so they have that. So that's what I'm following with. And emotions, moment to moment, as we know, and emotions are our energy in motion, and playing with the emotions more and more to the point of changing the weather, playing and allowing, remembering our power that we have within each of us. I do really feel that's a big piece, is that remembrance that we have we're these powerful conduits to shift and change everything around us. So yes, I'm playing with that, a little bit clowny, you know, clowning with the playful lightness of the energy. Not in here. Yeah, and the more this opens up, then the more information and experiences download. Yeah, and that's what I'm here, is to have the experience and then share the experience.
Nice.
And then others like yourself bring the information for where that experience is from. Okay,
Cool.
that's all I have. But
Yeah. And so, I mean, that definitely ties in with, you know, the discipline. We need the discipline to really create an opportunity to look inside, to have an inspection inside, because we're the only ones that can do that work. You know, and it's an externalized inspection because somebody's going to show up at a certain time and they're going to have an expectation, and you got to be ready for it. So there's accountability. But in this case, you know, there's no accountability that comes other than our own discipline. And so that's a great word. I think that applies very, very well to just have the strength and the courage and willingness to do you know, like a meditation and tuning in with yourself, your higher self, and asking where do I need to grow, what do I need to see in myself that could use a little more healing, how can I brighten up and grow, and what is it that needs to be attended to. And you know, I kind of like to look at the whole reality of, okay, so we have the bear and the teachings of, you know, opening those gates that have been closed, so we'll never know or feel alone, but we can, you know, feel the sense of freedom. So cleaning up these levels of fear and using the cloud nation sort of as that alchemy, you know, because they're here, they bring in the alchemy of self. So the Cloud Nation, you know, they're the star relatives that come in. So I had such a powerful connection to the Cloud Nation at Sundance on the 4th day. Like I literally saw the star beings in the mist walking around in the arbor. And it was incredible. They were tall giants and just, you know, moving this amazing energy through the dancers. And I could tell that they were there to assist on that level of helping us, you know, heal and ascend and, you know, doing that alchemy of self. So when we're talking about that, you know, as we're identifying these things that are maybe troubling or that we're fearful of, you know, how can we shift our perspectives? How can we shift and transmute into a new reality, a new belief, a new empowering way that connects us to faith versus disempowered in fear. So I love that the bear comes, or the bear and the clouds kind of working together to bring that balance and that bridge as a mechanism, you know. And then we have Krishna who comes in as the ascended master, and that is the one, you know, invoking the dharmic path. And I know you had more to share about that too, Mel. Do you want to share about the Dharma?
Yeah. I love that we're talking about how, you know, I was just visualizing it like, okay, we're opening and clearing all the gates, right? We're working through the motions that come when we open and clear all these gates. And now we're in this free flow. So what do we do with all that energy? And then here comes Krishna and it's like, well, here's your Dharma, you know, like invoke your Dharmic path. And it just so happened that with that whole, what I was speaking about before, and the entrance into the Lion's Gate happening around the 17th, 18th, 19th, that actually was a celebration of Krishna, the celebration of the birth of Krishna, which comes around every year when the sun is in this sign and the moon is in this sign, but it just happened to be right on that Lionsgate portal. And the celebration is Janmashtami, and that's the birth of Krishna. So that was just happening last week. And so yeah, it's really rich in my heart, just keeping an eye and a heart to that ascended master. He's bringing in bliss, he's bringing in Anand, which is wholeness, and you know, and the joy that comes when you are whole and complete and you can just be in your Dharma. So I think that's it's a beautiful ascended master message to come with this moon, because as we're doing that introspection and opening the gates, which kind of happen all at the same time, you know, invoking the Dharma, that little trinity of actions that we're going to be engaged in, we have this opportunity to be in our wholeness and our bliss and just roll with that.
Yeah.
Joyful presence. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can really make it fun and, you know, be like bears, you know, rolling around, climbing trees. And one of the most amazing things I loved doing when I was little is I would sit on the grass on a blanket and just look up at the sky and watch the clouds and watch them transform into all the different shapes. And, you know, like I always wondered why I had such a love of that and that connection. And it's just knowing that there's an existence in the clouds, not just my mind making up images into something. Like it totally leveled up for me, and so I'm really excited to work with that again, as we're moving into this cycle that starts with this new moon.
Well, can I share one quick example too of how that happened and for me last week, just like very practically, you know, like I working with the technology to put my vision into form in this now, you know, I went into like full blown panic attack, like banging my head against the wall because the tech wasn't working the way I wanted it to work. And I was like having this whole self-doubt thing, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do this, like a lot of that energy coming through. And there was a moment where I just stepped away and I was like, you know what? This is like any creative medium. Why are you thinking it's any different? You know how to dance, you know how to collage, you know when you hit a boundary, what to do when you get into those places when you're creating art. Like this is the same. So, you know, like let it go, like play. Yeah, get into the clowning age to see what's possible. And it opened up a whole new avenue. And now I'm totally in the joy of creation and pulling this through and forward. But yeah, I had a full-blown panic attack last week because I was like, this is never gonna work.
Well, and
That's
everything
that.
you just shared is such a great reminder, because we're in the month, the test of surrender. And so like
Surrender.
that's such a deep and rich topic in and of itself. And I think we've probably talked about that before, but I don't know, Zoe, do you want to jump in and share about surrender and how that reflects out in like in the work that you do?
Ah, it's my favorite word. It's my favorite word, that point of trusting and having that trust in not knowing, and to be willing to explore, to dip your toe in, to actually have the experience, because you can't understand something unless you have an experience of it. And we're coming into that more and more. And the more of us that keep surrendering and leading that way of how surrender is actually a potency of the infinite realm, then others will jump in and continue and follow. And it's this beautiful ripple effect that's happening right now. And even in that, to keep surrendering into what you don't know. And when those beautiful points come up, their powerful pivot leverage point, as we need the resistance to push up, so we're not going, oh, I'm just floating around in spacing. No, have that point. And like Mel said, like stepping away, zoom out, let it go, let it be. Like the clouds continue to pass, right? They're going to continue constantly changing. And the more and more we can learn to recognize that within our own body, clearing, then the more we can really step into that joy, because joy is on the other side of surrender. That's your wholeness, and that's what I feel is flowing through now, more and more, moment to moment. And then something really magical happens with that. You no longer have to seek things. You simply show up and share your resonance of your joy, which is magical. And others start bringing what it is for you to really, truly be in your Dharma of service. And that's the shift that's happening. So less push, more surrender, more allowing. You can't force an orgasm, right? And it's like going into that point of no return and trusting, and that's where you develop faith. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
From fear to faith, it's all surrender, it's all letting go, it's accepting. And like that's the epitome of facing your biggest challenge, because your biggest challenge is all fear. It's all wrapped up in fear. So moving past it, finding the joy. I love that. Lelie, did you want to share any more before we move into completion?
Well, I just feel like a big message that I got this weekend was to allow people to follow their own path. There's only so much that we can do. We can show them an example, we can teach them, but then we just have to let them go. And that was something that was really kind of a big lesson that the grandmothers were sharing last night, was let them go. Let them go. It's like children walking, you hover over them, you don't want them to fall. Well, most of the people we know in our lives that are going through an awakening process have to find their own way and their own path. And we can share an example, but we have to step back now. We've done so much for others, to help others, to enlighten others. And now it's time for us to step back and allow them their lessons, whether it be karma, dharma, whatever it is. And that's the hard part. But that was really clear, is, with certain people in my life, I need to step out. So that's really important right now.
That's a great topic to bring up. And there was just so much about the idea of rescuing that came up during ceremony, you know, and just, you know, we can't rescue anybody but ourselves, you know, and it can be such a driver to go rescue somebody else because we're too afraid to do our own work. It's just easier to go do it over there where they need it. And you know, I love that it's almost like we just have to hold space for each other, as hard as that might be to witness and as excruciating of a heartache that might create for ourselves. But that is absolutely so critical, because so many people are coming online and waking up and having spiritual experiences and awakenings. And you know, if somebody is there to rush to your side and be there to help you through that, or help you understand it, you're going to become their guru. Yeah, they're going to externalize all their power mostly to somebody else or you, because you happen to be standing there. And the idea is that we have to do this on the inside, and that is part of the spiritual awakening, is getting that connection inside for ourselves, trusting our own intuition, trusting our own messages that are coming in. Yeah, it's crazy, you know, there are times I feel crazy all the time still, and you know, it's just part of it. And it's like, this is exciting because like, I saw cloud people, and you know, I see spirits, like, ooh, this is fun, this is cool, it's different. But yeah, it's changing, and I'm just trusting it. Like, I'm trusting myself more now than I probably ever have been, given all the hardship that I've had to go through to get here, and to muscle through it and grind through, you know, the tears on the, you know, in the fetal position on the floor for 4 days straight, you know, like, it's just part of it. But yeah, so moving along, Melanie, did you want to have anything more, add any more to this space before we move into completion?
I feel we did a really complete share here. Yeah, I feel the wholeness of what we've alchemized here. Feels really good. So nothing more from me.
Anybody else?
Feel complete.
Me too.
The words, can I add the breakdown of what came through of discipline? Because I know some people have a resistance with the word. It's almost becoming a disciple of yourself.
Oh, beautiful.
The discipline, it's a disciple of self.
Mm.
Awesome. All right. Well, on that note, I want to thank all of you for joining me again today and having this amazing discussion as we move into this next 10th dimensional moon influence of the bear, working with the spiritual freedom of man. So find your freedom and set yourself free. Much love to you all. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care.